Remember the story I shared? I said that this girl, the father was raping her and her sisters. One of them ran away after she got into uni, and they even went to report to the priest, and the priest did not do anything about it. The priest called the family, reconciled them. You reconcile the father that have been raping his children. You reconcile the father with the children and ask them to go home and live happily ever after. Yes, that is the story I'm talking about. The girl has finally decided to come out and share her story in details by herself.
So it's high time we start having conversations about this kind of issues, especially when it comes to Christians. A lot of us Christians have been brought up to be quick to sweep anything under the carpet using scriptures like blessed are the peacemakers because they shall be called the sons of God. You need to forgive 70 times 7 and a whole lot of things. But it is very key for us to know when to apply different scriptures. There are different keys that open different doors. So if you don't know how to rightly divide the word of truth, you will end up becoming an unjust person, encouraging and enabling wickedness in the earth. So in this case now, this priest is trying to supposedly reconcile an abusive father who has been molesting his daughters with these same daughters who are his victims. That is absolute nonsense. There's a difference between a crime that has been committed and somebody just making poor choices. This is an absolute crime. This man needs to be arrested and tried so that he can face the full consequences of what he has done. And this also reminds me of how King David in the Bible, chose to address what happened to his daughter when there was incest in the family. You know what I'm talking about, where Amnon, his son, raped his half sister Tamar, right? They just told her, oh, go and stay one side. So she went and covered her head and lived maybe in seclusion or whatever for the rest of her life. And then David turned the other eye. He didn't do anything. And obviously, the brother of Tamar ended up taking the law into his hand and unalived his brother, right? And the whole lot of things that came from there. That was not okay. Tamar was his daughter. He didn't cry when anything happened to her, but he cried and said, oh, my son, Amnon, my son, Amnon. When that his son that raped his daughter faced the consequences of his decisions. And so you see that pattern of taking the life of men more seriously than the life of women. This lady now, she was taken advantage of, like Tamar in the Bible. She was raped, but she is the one that now has to go and hide her face, that will probably never get married. And then Amnon continues to live his life normally, right? Nobody even called him his brother. His father didn't hold him accountable. That is wickedness. That is wickedness of the first class order. And so that is why when people read the Bible and say, okay, after all, this one happened and the King David is still a man after God's own heart, we need to understand that when God wrote these things, everything that is written in the Bible is written for an instruction. This is not what God instructed, but this man did it, and there were consequences. And so when Jesus came, he handled things differently. There was this lady that the Pharisees brought to her. They were trying to use the recommendations of the law of Moses to unalive her by throwing stones at her. And they said that their reason was because she was caught in the very act, right? So they caught her doing the do. But was she doing it by herself? No, there was a man, but the man was let to go scot-free. But on the flip side, the woman was brought. So Jesus told them, if you know that you have not committed any sin, throw the first stone. So he held them accountable for all that they are doing because of that tendency to always trivialize the things that are going on in the woman's life. At the end of it all, they all left the woman. Jesus drew her close and said, okay, nobody is condemning you. I myself am not condemning you. Go and don't sin anymore. So in that case, it was a case of, I guess, mutual consent between her and the man. But what I'm trying to bring out here is that this is a situation of crime against one's children. They were minors when this thing began. A father is doing this to his children, but instead of a priest to bring this thing to justice, he said, oh, let us cover it. So I'm seeing far too many stories of abominable things happening among families, and it is coming out on social media, and we are thinking that these are new things. They are not new things. These things have been happening for ages and ages. And because these men have often not been held accountable, it is becoming worse and worse. It is just this era of social media where anybody can easily come out and share their story. That is when these things are coming out. So if you have been a victim and you are looking forward to, getting justice for yourself, especially if it is someone that is in your family, an uncle, your father, anybody, and someone is trying to cajole you because you're a Christian, do not fall for that. Do not fall for it. There is a place for forgiveness when there is just maybe minor issues between family members, but this is a crime. You have every right to seek for justice. So I just wanted to put this out there. Don't allow anybody blackmail you into swallowing, trauma. If that man that called himself your father or your uncle or whatever found it like the normal thing to do whatever he wants with you. And this, in this instance, it is something that has been ongoing. Even if it is once, it is still an issue. But what is it that gives somebody the audacity to come again and again and again? It is premeditated, it is intentional. Those things are crimes. You have every right to seek to get justice for yourself. Don't allow anybody to use the name of God to cajole you into swallowing trauma for the rest of your life for peace to reign. Okay? That is not peace. You deserve to heal. You deserve to get justice.